Let's bring in, truly, I'm not just saying this because he's joining us. I grew up watching this man, which I apologize for in advance, Ric Bucher, because it probably makes you feel old anytime somebody says that. But I have been watching you for decades. Thrilled to have you here on Boston Has Entered the Chat with us. I want to mention Rick, of course, has United We Cast, an international basketball podcast that is available on YouTube, all of the audio platforms. Also, a new book that you can pre-order due out in May, and that is called Coachable, How the Greatest Performers Reach Their Highest Potential. Rick, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am well. And at least you didn't say, I remember when I used to read you, because that's really dating me, and I've heard that before. But it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thrilled to have you here with us, where we have to begin around these parts when it comes to talking about the NBA and the Boston Celtics, obviously. All eyes on Jayson Tatum, and we just keep getting these breadcrumbs of the partnership with NBC, this weekly release sort of documenting his return. It's still an if, not a when, but I think most of us feel when in terms of his return. There was a primetime game or a game flexed against the Philly, or the Sixers, all of these Philly teams, that is now in primetime coming up on March 1st. How are you absorbing all of this, and what are your expectations for Tatum when it comes to playing this year?
So much of this has to do with the progress and the type of injury it was, and a lot of information that we're not privy to. So I'm reserving judgment on exactly where he is and the viability of him playing. But just if I'm treating it across the board as I would any major injury, I would say I would not expect him to come back. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea. The flex on a game, I think, is as much a reflection of how the Boston Celtics are just so much better than anybody expected them to be. The same would apply to the Philadelphia 76ers, and that then becomes an interesting matchup. But if I look at, and this is living in the Bay Area, this hits close to home, watching Klay Thompson take a serious injury in terms of a torn ACL, trying to come back the next season, and in preparation for that season, then blowing out his Achilles. I think we've become so accustomed to major injuries no longer being major injuries, or things being expedited for a guy to come back. And when I look at the age of Jayson Tatum and I look at the construction of this Boston Celtics team, I would not be in a hurry to bring him back if it was at the expense of his potential future or losing him again in short order. And let's not understate this. Coming from all the time that he's missed, the injury that he had, and now asking him to jump in and play at the speed that is necessary after everybody's been playing for 5-6 months, I believe only ratchets up the risk involved in having him come back, because these are meaningful games. So I don't know what the Boston Celtics are going to do. But if they decided that they were going to be cautious and say, you know what, we're gonna give him a full year to recover before we throw him back into the fire, I would not be opposed to that at all.
Rick, I appreciate that you brought up a past example, because that's just how our brains work, right? It's like, all right, Achilles injury. Who else has suffered an Achilles injury? The closest thing I can think of is Kevin Durant, late in the playoffs, coming back, just the timeline. And you mentioned the physical aspect of it and how it can, impact them long term, these players. But what about the mental aspect? You've been around players who have suffered, major injuries, like you said. Sure. What kind of mental toll does that have on them? And is that playing into the decision of whether or not he's going to come back?
I would hope so. I mean, it's going to be natural that when he comes back, he's going to test it, or that he's not going to immediately go 100%, no matter what he does in preparation. A game is just different. And that's really the tricky part here, right? Is you work yourself to a certain condition, and then you're thrown into a live game where it means everything. And now you're just going to go. Like, you're not thinking about protecting that injury. You're just going to go. And there's no real way of being able to know exactly where his preparation for that moment is. And his ability, the other part of it is, and this probably speaks more to your question, like the mental, you don't want to have to think about what you're doing. If you're reacting rather than just acting, you're a half second slow in the NBA. And that creates the possibility of other injuries because now your timing is out of sync. So, yeah, there is both a physical and mental hurdle or hurdles to be overcome. And again, I'm going to go to when we're looking for him to come back, we're now looking at stretch run. This is when everybody's dialing it up, getting ready for the playoffs. And the idea that he's going to go from nothing, 0 to 60, I think there's an inherent risk that we have sort of come to ignore because so many guys are coming back on expedited schedules.
So I can imagine that one thing Tatum is weighing when it comes to coming back this season on perhaps an expedited schedule is how well this team has been playing this season. Do you think that immediately, let's say he returns March at some point, do you think immediately this team is going to be even better with his return, or will the difference maybe take some time?
No, I would expect it would take some time. Now, Jayson is one of those rare stars who I believe has both the mentality and ability to figure out what the team needs for him in any given situation and try to, focus his attention in that area. I don't think it's going to be, as some people have suggested, like there's going to be this struggle for who's carrying the mantle or who's the number one between him and Jaylen Brown. I think they've had enough years of sorting that out and have won a championship doing it that's not my concern. But it does put a lot of pressure on Joe Mazzulla to figure out how do I incorporate him just minutes-wise, because this team is rolling. And one of the reasons that I believe that the Boston Celtics have been able to pivot so successfully without Jayson Tatum and without Kristaps Porzingis and without Drew Holiday is because Joe Mazzulla has always empowered whoever is playing well and can fit the role that he needs in a given situation. He's going to give him minutes. I mean, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Derek White. I could go down the line, and now we see it with Neemias Queta, like coming brand new. And the responsibility that they're given, like there's a message that a coach sends that gets guys to play as hard as these guys do, which is if you do what I ask, you're going to get minutes. And if you bring Jayson Tatum back in and you're trying to figure out how do I use him and utilize him and get his minutes, and maybe he's not quite up to snuff, now you're juggling this, okay, I'm taking minutes away from other guys who have really earned them in order to create an opening to get Jayson back into the mix. And not to say that they couldn't do it or it would create some sort of, discord within the team, but it is a consideration. Like, I think we're so used to looking at the NBA in particular and basketball in general in a fantasy basketball mentality where it's, I'm just going to plug this guy in. And these are real human beings interacting like any of us at our job. Like when our role changes or when we're doing a certain thing and we're doing it well, and then your boss says, we don't need you for that. You just do this over here. We have an emotional reaction to that you now have to respond to and sort of get used to. And so because of that success and because of the way Joe Mazzulla has run this team, it's not as easy as just saying, we got, Jayson Tatum can play again. Let's plug him back in. We're going to be we'll roll. I think it's a little more complicated than that.
Let's build on that because I think most people hear Jayson Tatum returning, which, by the way, I think he's going to. I've been beating that drum all year. But I am in line with you that the organization is not going to do anything irresponsible. Any player that's of that level of importance makes that kind of money, they're an investment. They're not going to bring him back if he is not fully, completely medically cleared and also mentally able to endure all that is in front of him. So we're on the same page there. But if he returns, sort of sounds like you're saying, this would be counter to what I think the public would be saying, that you're not necessarily a better team or a substantially better team than this overachieving squad that we've seen on the court this year come playoff time.
Come regular season, I wouldn't worry about. They've got the depth there. Getting to the playoffs, when you have to figure out, like, your efficiency level has to go up, and there's no more experimentation. Because let's face it, this team has evolved and grown this year without Jayson Tatum in the picture. So guys have gotten very comfortable playing their roles off of Jaylen Brown. And not to say that they can't or haven't had the experience of doing that same thing with Jayson Tatum, but it does take a beat. And so I'm not going so far as to say they don't need Jayson Tatum or they couldn't be better without Jayson Tatum. It's more in the short term, are they better with Jayson Tatum, and can they get back to that place that they were previously? And can Jaylen Brown get he's got to make maybe the biggest adjustment. Like, can he be everything that he's been to this point, figuring out how he fits again next to Jayson? Again, I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just looking at why. Let's back it up. Let's ask the question. Why would we be bringing Jayson Tatum back? Other than just he's ready to go and we want to play. It would be presumably because you think you got a shot at a championship, right?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, also,
yeah.
it lifts your ceiling. But I think the number one, as you said, is he's ready. If he's ready, you're going to bring him back. You're not going to shelve him. But also, I think most people would feel that, yeah, he elevates your chances to come out of the East at the very least.
So with that in mind, like, now you're setting the bar here, and which means that your level of experimentation and, like, trying to figure things out on the fly is raised. And so, look, again, a lot of it has to do with where he is and how able everybody is to pivot. My point is, it's not as simple as just plugging him back in. There's a lot of things that would be on Joe Mazzulla's plate and the rest of the team and Jayson in order to make it work. And when I weigh that versus the potential of injury or another injury or re-injuring his Achilles, as opposed to giving him a full year and a summer to prepare for a season and be on the same timeline as he would, I would lean toward, unless he's adamant about playing. But if he's not adamant about playing, if he's not sure, I'm giving him a full year and I'm bringing him back next year.
Do you think the decision to come back for Tatum would have potentially anything to do with business, with the release of this documentary, with flexing the game on March 1st to prime time? Would he consider that at all and risk coming back too early just to coincide with the release of his documentary? Do the two have anything to do with each other? Is that what we're seeing here?
Lucy, I hope not. I really hope not. Because, I mean, that is just sensational. It's where we are, right?
Yeah.
It's where we are.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's got their brand. They've got their production companies. It's like the basketball is taking a back seat to, yeah, but I got this project that I'm starring in a movie. Like, I have to play.
Yes.
That's just an extraordinary idea, but it's not crazy. It's like, I think there are decisions that are made along those lines. I guess for me, the emotional journey that Jayson Tatum is going on right now would be just as powerful if he gets to that point where he sits down with the team and for all the work that he's done trying to get back this season, and they ultimately sit down and say, you know what? The time's not right. You're not there. To me, that story would be as powerful as seeing him get back on the floor and play. So, by the way, when is it? What's the timing of it? Like, at what point does it get released?
Yeah, so it's a 5-part series.
Well, it's coming out weekly for 5 weeks.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
Which is why I think
mean,
potentially he comes back toward the end of the season coincides with the final episode being released.
Okay,
Like,
that's what I meant. Is sort of when's the last segment supposed to air?
Right.
I don't know. At that point, does it even, if you're that close to the playoffs, I mean, you got to bring this guy. I would think at the latest, you're bringing him back in the middle of March, so he's got a month-long run-up to the postseason. If he's coming back at the beginning of April, at that point, you're doing him and the team a disservice.
1,000%.
I mean, sorry to cut you off, Rick, but at this point, if there hasn't been any ill will between Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, you plug Jayson Tatum into that lineup as the playoffs start, now you're playing with fire. You're asking to create ill will between your two superstars, and that's just I don't think they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's ill will. It's just I don't know that it's going to make your team better by any stretch. And I would say, like 4 weeks is a minimum for the team, and I mean that may not even be enough, because we're talking about like Jayson having to get back to his game. And that's going to be a sliding scale, right? Because he's not going to go out and play 35 minutes the first night. He's probably going to come off the bench. So you're probably going to go at least 3-4 games with him, on a minute restriction at the very least. So we're talking, that's 2 weeks. And then slowly ramp that up where he's in the starting lineup, but you're still on a minutes restriction. That's another 2 weeks. And then ultimately, you can add that to the bleeper reel. Wow, my light falling. And then it's then you need another 2 weeks. Now you're playing at regular season pace, and now you're doing the playoffs. Like if I can't have that sort of ramp up, again, I think there's all sorts of problems that are created for both the team and for Tatum.
All right, I'll only make you answer one more Jayson Tatum question because it's kind of been in the back of my mind a little bit, but what are the chances that they bring him back and allow him to ramp up a little and then shut him down before the playoffs? Like, don't fully let him get to the point where he might be able to re-injure himself, but introduce him a little bit to game action. Is there any chance that they do that?
I don't see why you would, just because of the interruption it would create with the team.
Sure.
And again, a lot of this has to do with you're not just bringing him back. You're bringing him back to a team that has aspirations of maybe playing for a title or getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. So all of the all the stakes are raised in how you're going to handle him and how you're going to handle this team at large because of that.
I have 7 more Jayson Tatum questions. I'm kidding. No, I know we're running short on time. I want to get to a couple more things, but very quickly. Tatum or no Tatum, who's Boston's biggest threat coming out of the East just to try and get to the NBA Finals, probably for the right to lose to whichever team comes out of the West?
In spite of their lack of experience, I'm believing in the Detroit Pistons and their physicality and their size, and that combination, particularly the strength on their front line. Jalen Duren, I think, legit all-star, legit second-best player on that team. I'm just so impressed with Cade Cunningham. He was on my MVP ballot last year. He certainly will be again this year. I just think his combination of being able to lead that team. And then JB Bickerstaff has all those guys believing in the way that they're playing defensively. I just their physicality and the way they match up with Boston. I think Boston can beat New York. I don't put the Knicks in that same category. I think that their wings and their length is going and can and will cause problems for the Knicks if they were to get into a series. I don't feel the same way with the Detroit Pistons.
Well, knowing that you're an MVP voter, now we're going to have you back because I want to hear where you're slotting Jaylen Brown specifically in that MVP vote. But before we're out of time, tell us a little bit about the new book and what readers can expect.
A combination passion project, and feel like, everything that I've experienced playing sports, raising 2 kids who were collegiate athletes, covering sports obviously for 30 years. And was sort of inspired by something that Michael Jordan said, which was the difference maker for him was that he was coachable. And I thought, well, what does that mean? What exactly does that mean? And so I came up and talking to coaches and players in a multitude of sports, their definition of what being coachable is and how it dovetailed with their success. And so we came up with the 10 truths of what that means. And particularly in today's world, and having just gone through it with my kids, parents are part of this equation in terms of understanding what the value of being coachable really is, and what the experience of playing sports can teach us. Because this isn't, I use sports as the platform. The truth is that if we're able to synthesize our vision of who and what we want to be with someone else's vision of who and what we can be, we can go so much higher than if we're just following our own track. But we have to be open to that, and it takes a special sort of confidence and humility to be able to do that. And so I know that all of you are where you are because you had a vision of who and what you wanted to be, and you were able to collate that with someone else's idea of this is how you can be better, and this is who you can be. And so that was the inspiration for it, and I'm excited. I'm really excited for it to come out in May. You can pre-order your copy now, but I got Steph Curry's in it. Everybody from Steph Curry to Landon Donovan to Brandi Chastain, they were all gracious in not only allowing me to talk to them, but their mentors, their coaches, and their families, because that's part of the equation.
Three of us are just trying to fool one person at a time, Rick, to be perfectly honest with you. But we appreciate that very much. Again, Coachable, you can see it right over Rick's shoulder. Check it out, as he said, out in May, and pre-order it right now. You can also find Rick on his podcast, United We Cast. That is an international basketball podcast available for you, YouTube and audio platforms. Ric Bucher, I did grow up reading you on ESPN. I had to throw it out there at the end. I'm sorry. I had to say it.
You didn't need that at the end.
I'm sorry, I had to say
Lucy,
Ric
thank
Bucher.
you for not saying anything. Lucy says, I've never seen this guy before. But
but I will be reading your book.
At least I didn't throw
Thank
out like
you.
Washington Post. You know, I gave you a range, right?
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that.